Welcome to the Nausea River podcast. I'm Theo Morgan, and I don't think taking a week off from this was the best gamble I ever made. But here I am, arms full of t-shirts and a head full of concert tales. Or is it? I enjoy writing about my exploits. It's the closest I'll get to making progress on a novel, or whatever I used to tell everyone when they asked me what I do as a hobby. Though it starts to come off as a foolish way to make a number go up. And that's just your opinion. I had fun. I went to 4 shows in a week and got interviews from 2 of them. Just wait and see after all. Boris and Opeth are on tour and don't give a shit about me anyways. But maybe I'll get famous and they'll eat those words. We'll revisit those stories when it makes sense to. On October 19th, I checked another Boston area venue off my list, the famous Deep Cuts Brewery in Medford. It's equal fractions brew pub, restaurant, record store, and small venue. A lot of moving parts and in a cramped space to boot. But it oddly makes Deep Cuts easy to hang out in. There is never a boring moment there, and I made plenty of friends. What else would I go for but a curated selection of alumni from Summer Gloom? It always goes back to the Boston area's purveyors of doom, gloom, and sad fucking tunes. There is no Nausea River without them, and yet the next festival is almost a year away. I was hanging out around Black Pyramid's merch table at Summer Gloom a couple months ago when someone brought up this show. It may have been their guitarist who did. We're opening for Glacier in October. Okay, sick. I was having good enough of a night to put on my calendar immediately. The full bill amounted to Glacier, headlining and throwing a release party for their newest album, starting them off for Black Pyramid, Circus Trees, and Tears from a Grieving Heart, and let the last name make it clear what kind of vibe this night will have. Tears from a Grieving Heart opened the night with 2 songs. They play funeral doom metal, a subgenre characterized by its name alone, but also by being minimalist, harsh, and most importantly, slow. Long songs are almost a given for the genre, so 2 songs still makes for a pretty substantial set. I liked them. The 4-piece band certainly took their craft seriously on stage, but offstage they were friendly and funny, infectiously so. Their attitude pulled me back into the beer-soaked camaraderie of this small brewery show. They gave away buttons artfully scrawled with TFAGH is an awful band and I hate them, among other insults, but that's the one I grabbed. One of their stickers is just of the vocalist's cat, and best of all, Tears from a Grieving Heart were small enough for a fledgling podcast to approach. All right. So I'm Theo Morgan, the podcaster. Let's have everyone introduce themselves.
I'm Ty. I play drums for the band, and I suppose I'm pretty alright at it.
I'm Hales. Pronouns are she, they. I play bass because guitar has tiny strings and they're scary. I have big fingers.
Hi, I'm Michaela, or Mike, and I use they, them pronouns, and I am the vocalist and pianist of Tears from a Grieving Heart.
Oh, yeah, I was wondering about the piano. Meet most of Tears from a Grieving Heart, minus guitarist Mandy Wilkins, who was enjoying a well-deserved vacation. Hell yeah. Ty, Hales, and Mike gladly lent almost 2 hours of their time to meet, despite technical difficulties and all of us finding tangents to go off on. I pared it down to something reasonable. I want to be proof that there's a lot of humor to be found even in dark and obscure interests, maybe more there than anywhere else. Laugh with us if you may. Though, to be serious for a moment, I am keeping an eye on comments on my socials and platforms that host this podcast. This podcast is a space for everyone, not a space for hate and culture war nonsense. So, I'm wondering about the humble beginnings. Why make a funeral doom band? I make Tears from a Grieving Heart.
See, this is why I'm glad that Mike's here, because he and Hales just kind of jumped on the boat.
Yeah, we're the 2 non-original band members of the band, so this was probably best handed off to Mike.
Okay, hi. The band was actually originally started probably about 6, maybe even 7 years ago by founding member Mandy Wilkins.
Okay.
It was a solo project originally that did not have a name, that I way back when used to run like DIY like basement shows out of a house I was living in. And Mandy, I asked them to play for this house show, and I was like, the project needs a name for us to put on the flyer. And there were like names that bounced around a little bit, but a lot of what was being written and a lot of, I'll just put it this way, like, I think I can speak for them and myself when I say this. Mandy and I's favorite band is Mournful Congregation.
Oh, they're really good.
Yeah. And our Tears from a Grieving Heart is just like, a quintessential funeral doom album, in my opinion. Like, I still to this day think that it's Mournful Congregation's best record. I love all of Mournful Congregation's work, but I still think it's their best record. And I also think that with the music that Mandy was writing then, and then the music that the two of us started writing together when they asked me to be a part of the project with them, still fits that particular name and that particular era of Mournful Congregation. I still feel like we are heavily influenced by Mournful Congregation and that era. But so that's where it originated, and then we became a 4-piece. Probably in about, I would say about five years ago or so. And we wrote the original track for Marrowed, which if you go on our Bandcamp, the original demo of Marrowed is still up to be listened to. It is a very different song now, and I definitely love what Marrowed has become. But that was written and recorded with the original 4 members. And then, pandemic, life changes, lots of other stuff. Our original drummer and our original bassist both had to leave for personal reasons, life reasons, that kind of stuff. And Mandy and I decided to just kind of keep going, and we met Hales, and she used to be in a band called Wimp.
Yeah.
And we just remember like seeing her play and like hearing her and just like hearing other stuff that she had done and being like, oh, she would be the person for us. So we asked her, and surprisingly, for some reason, she said yes. And she has been a part of the project for 4 years now. Hales, is that correct?
Yeah, you came at me right after I got off stage with Wimp's last. It was our farewell show. We were like a all trans drum and bass power violence band. And literally after I got the stage, like, you were booking shows that we were playing. We would play your house. Mandy would come out to the shows and hang out. So that's how I knew both of you. Not very well at the time, but I both, thought y'all were cool as hell. Yeah, you came at me right after I got off stage. And then literally this another band, Seed, came at me and asked me to play for them too. And I was like, oh God, I just told these people I'd play bass for them. That's too much. Sorry, I can only do one band at a time, so you beat me to it. But I do think it's been a wild ride since, and I've been really fucking stoked to be playing in this project. It's definitely, pushed me to become a better musician by a lot, just trying to keep up with y'all. So I didn't really change my philosophy on how I listen to music, how I play music, how I write music. So it's been really, really fucking rewarding.
Then we went through a couple of drummer changes. I gotta say, drumming for a funeral doom band is hard. It's hard. It is not, I mean, I think funeral doom is in a lot of ways like pretty complicated to figure out, especially as like musicians who make a lot of like metal music. It's a lot like, even funeral doom, even in the like realm of doom, is so slow and glacial, and I feel like for drummers that's so hard because you have to like know, I mean, I'm not a drummer, but just like from my experience, like you have to know like when to let things ring out. You need to know when to leave space, like,
I wanted to add to that. Sounds like, because with funeral doom, I have a feeling that like you can't have a note that's bullshit because you have like 5 notes per song.
Yes.
Yeah.
You think that, like, I feel like people think that, especially like doom metal, there's so many jokes about like how like slow it's like, oh, they played one note, I can go get a beer and come back, like that, all those kind of jokes. But like you're saying, you can't like bullshit it because of that. And like with drumming especially, I feel like that's like even more complicated and even more difficult. So we went through a couple of drummers, and then we found Ty. I actually knew Ty from I knew Ty from doing house shows, basement shows and such. We had a lot of like friends in common, hung out in a lot of the same scenes. And Ty had been in like a couple of different bands and had never been in like a slower band before, but was like, I want to give it a shot. And I think that says a lot about like Ty's abilities as a drummer, that like they had always been in like more like thrash or like faster projects, and they were like up for the challenge of Funeral Doom. And I gotta say, like, I don't think, I think Mandy would agree with me, I don't think that the album, An Endless Cycle of Wrenching Pain, would be what it is without Hales and Ty. I really don't.
I also agree, because that the version of Marrowed on that album, I only listened to like the recent finished album and all. Like it starts this really sick bass line.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like I don't think it would be the same without that.
No.
So that's actually not a bass line.
Oh, come on.
That's actually a baritone. Andy plays baritone guitar on that, and everyone thinks it's bass. So I wish I could take credit for that.
You're fired from the band.
I know. Mike, I do think it's really funny that you're like, oh yeah, we need members for our super slow Glacial Funeral Doom band. Let's get the bassist from the Transgender Power Violence band and this goofball from the thrash metal band. That'll be good.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, how do you get into Funeral Doom from that background?
Well, so it's actually kind of funny. So when I knew Mike, I was in a different era of my life before, and they would find me. I've grown since this time, but they, playing faster styles of music. Sometimes they would find me like asleep at their table at like 5 a.m. when they were getting ready for work, because I was hanging out with their friends and stuff, and I was living a fast-paced, going nowhere real quick kind of lifestyle, which is really fun to look back on and laugh at myself. But I decided to leave a lot of that behind, much to, like, I would say for the better. And in that time, I hadn't seen Mike in a while, but I would hang out with Mandy. And as I found out, they had been scheming in the background to get me in the band. And at the time, I didn't have a place to practice drums. And I had been telling Mandy about how I was looking for a new practice space. So then Mike hits me up on Instagram, and I was like, oh shit, I haven't talked to Mike in a long time. What's going on? So I open it up, and basically they said, hey, I heard you're looking for, or no, not even, they didn't even say that. This was a scheme. They can't give it all away. So basically they told me that they were looking for a practice space, and they wondered if they could jump into mine. And I was like, oh, it's so funny you mentioned that. I just happened to be looking for a practice space. Do you want to join forces? So then we did. And as we found it, they were like, by the way, we have a band. Do you want to jump in on drums? So I went and I played with them, and I was like, all right, cool. And they're like, hey, do you think you could play slower? And I was like, okay. So then I dropped that to halftime, and then they're like, okay, do you think you could drop that to halftime? And I was like, what? I was like, are you fucking serious? No, I cannot. And then I tried, and it did not go well at all, like at all. But then Mandy started showing me a lot of different types of funeral doom, and I really loved like stoner metal and like stuff of that sort. I like slow, crunchy riffs already, at that point. But then when the first time I heard funeral doom, I was like, wow, this is boring, whatever. But then I kept listening to it, and I heard it like 4 or 5 times, and I was like, oh wait, no, is this really good actually? And then I started getting really into it, started practicing, with the band more, and I started understanding it a little bit better, and I started developing tricks. The first trick I did was that I would take my foot off of the hi-hat pedal and tap the floor, but that didn't work for independence limbs reason. Essentially, it was really hard to keep up with. And also, if you wanted to use double bass, that falls off. So then I started clicking my tongue to keep with the beat. And that was the first trick I really caught. And then I started like hitting the air on the negatives. Like I would play literal ghost notes. Like there's a thing on drums called a ghost note where you hit really quietly, but I would do a literal ghost note where I'd hit the air just to keep the time. And then that was what I was doing for a long time. And then I saw a video of us playing live, and I was like, wow, that looks really lame. So I decided to stop doing that. And I've recently been just kind of like nodding my head and breathing rhythmically and counting under my breath to keep time. And that's really the secret, because there's so much space in between the notes that you can't just rely on your natural timing. You have to do something. So I try to do like little movements or breathing that can cue me in as to when the next note is. And it's really difficult. That's kind of the story of how I got in contact and kind of learned the genre. And now Funeral Doom is one of my favorite genres. The Shape of Despair, it's probably on my most played for the last year. Mike is probably sick of hearing Shape of Despair at this point.
I was also bamboozled into liking Funeral Doom because of Mike and Mandy. Because like I was in a power violence band. It's like pretty much the exact opposite of Funeral Doom, as much as I can think of. It's a million times faster. You're talking about like you can't bullshit the notes. This band was like every note was bullshitted because it was just like mostly feedback. I wasn't even trying to focus on playing. It was more about performance. I would be on stage actively trying to hurt myself. I'd spend every night, like I wouldn't just pick. I would just like punch my bass until the inside of my wrist was black. So like you couldn't even hear an audible fucking thing in that band. But I was always trying to push them to be more doomy. And I think Mandy and Mike really caught on to that. And I think they were just kind of like, there's something here. So I was really excited to, they didn't even tell me it was a Funeral Doom band. They were like, oh, you should play in our Doom band because we know you love Electric Wizard and Sleep and all that stoner shit.
Wait,
the gateway drug.
And then they were like, all right, so now that you're in a Doom band, keep those bong ripping riffs at home. And I'm like, what?
There's no stoner metal riffs allowed at practice. Oh, wait, actually.
They're like, we only played sad riffs. And I'm like, okay, this works. I'm clinically depressed. So I was able to figure it out. And then I realized I'm actually a lot better at writing sad riffs than angry riffs.
I like that you both said that I bamboozled you into liking Funeral Doom, as if like people have to be like coerced and manipulated into liking Funeral Doom.
I think you need to be like a prisoner of your own mind to like Funeral Doom, because like I'm not saying it's like my favorite genre ever, but I like it. My brother, who is probably more of a doom metal fan overall, like it's the only metal genre he still listens to. He never got Funeral Doom. And I think it's because he's a much more well-adjusted person.
I honestly feel like anyone who enjoys our band, we've bamboozled into liking Funeral Doom. We got you too!
You listened to Thurgothan once.
Yeah, man, you're gone. You're gone.
Yeah. I feel like for me, like it was best to start at the start of the genre because it's basically Death Doom. They just turned the dial down.
That's what I tell folks, like when I run venues. People ask me like, oh, are you a musician? Like, do you like, and I tell them I'm in a Funeral Doom band, and a lot of the time people are like, what the hell is that? And like you try to like explain it, and people just look at you like you have like three heads. So I've just started being like, imagine death metal, but really, really slow. Like really slow. And actually, the other day, this like older gentleman at my job asked me about my band, and I was like, "Oh, like we're a Funeral Doom band." He was like, "Can you explain that to me?" And I started like explaining it to him a little bit and being like, death metal, but really slow. And he was like, "Oh, like if the Grateful Dead was a metal band." Oh no. The face you just made is the exact face I made, like hands and my face, like oh no.
Red for filth. So I guess saying into that, I did have another question. Like,
Yes.
so what's it like being a funeral doom band out of Boston, and how do you feel like you fit into the local scene as you might think of it? Because like when I think of funeral doom, I think of a lot of very worldwide bands.
We're definitely, the only one, I would say.
Okay, I was hoping like you'd say we have our friends, and they're way more depressing.
Well, here's the thing: is I think like especially our newer material that we're playing now, we even though we are a funeral doom band and definitely stick to the roots of funeral doom, we also kind of like fit into pockets of other types of metal and other types of doom as well. So like while we might be, at least to my knowledge, the only funeral doom band in Boston, we're not the only doom band in Boston.
No problem.
And we have a lot of friends in Boston that we've made like through like this band that are in other bands like that like I feel like we fit into the community pretty well, even though like our genre is like, oh, I feel so like gross saying this, but like niche in a way, but like yeah, that's how I feel about it. I feel like even though like we might be the only funeral doom band around here, I think that we still like have and fit into like have a good connection with the community here and have like a lot of like really great folks that we get to like play with and interact with and work with. And like we've just played a lot of like really great shows. I mean, we just played an excellent, super amazing show with Glacier and Black Pyramid and Circus Trees, and like we don't mind being on bills where they're like more mixed, because I feel like Boston also just like kind of and Massachusetts in general, especially its like hardcore metal scene is like so all over the place. Maybe not so much hardcore because like Boston hardcore, but like I feel like at least our metal and our doom metal is so like everywhere that like even like some of the bands that are like the same type of doom are like so different from each other, so yeah.
And I do think we do a good job of sort of like chameleoning our way into certain bills, especially the more metal centric ones. Like we can play with another like stoner doom band like Black Pyramids, and it'll make sense. We played a few shows with them. They're great people. But then we can also hop in a bill with something like this local death metal band Striga, that it still kind of makes sense.
Love those guys.
Love those guys.
I mean, they're all homies, and it's like it's just I just like playing music with my friends and making new friends through music. And we even have the Boston hardcore kids sometimes coming out for our shows because Mandy has another band that they're in Unhinged. They play the more like BHC stuff, but they're also trying to bamboozle them into becoming like a doom hardcore band.
Watching them play doom riffs.
They play doom riffs at the BHC hardcore show, So.
Also, I want to say too that the atmosphere of Boston itself, I think, is really conducive to making music like this, especially in the winter months. There, especially if you like to go like on walks to like some of the older parts of Boston, or like obviously Mount Auburn Cemetery, or like a lot of the historical architecture here is like very Gothic and like has it helped inspire Bloodborne. It has a very like dreary sort of atmosphere sometimes. I know Bloodborne referenced. Mike's going
no
crazy.
like I'm not a huge gamer, but like I've watched my friends play Bloodborne and like the gears are turning in my head like, oh, that's what it was. Hey, just a moment. We'll be right back to the episode soon. But are you a musician? Do you work behind the scenes instead, or do you just have a cool story to tell? Nausea River is always looking for interview subjects and guests. I don't bite, and I'm a lot more loose and funny without a script, I promise. Check out our description for our social media and contact info if you're interested. Thanks a ton, and on to the rest of the show.
Also absolutely love American roots music. Not that this is related to anything we're talking about, but I did just mention Carter Family, and they wrote some of the saddest music I've ever heard, and it's very good. If anyone likes sad music and wants to hear some of the very beginnings of sad music in America, the Carter Family is fucking outstanding.
So you consider them your great
Oh yeah, and like right before this, I was listening to like Leadbelly and the Alan Lomax Southern Journey recordings, shit like that, like all day today. So
like, I have like one question, like one or two questions left in my screen, but I'm just wondering, like, do I just like psych into asking you like your favorite non-metal sad music?
I mentioned the Carter Family for mine. I generally really love, and this is like, I feel like one of the quintessential answers, but the specific subset of blues, I really love Mississippi Delta blues, especially R.L. Burnside. A lot of that stuff is really awesome. Chopin is definitely one of my favorite composers. Like, if I put on his like really ominous, sad piano, it usually puts me into a similar sort of mood. And also, there's a band, and it's not to be confused with Radiohead, but when I'm really, we're going to get a little look at Depressed High. When I'm really feeling down and out and I'm drinking my coffee in the mornings, Mike has probably seen this because reveal, me and Mike actually live in the same apartment.
You foreshadowed it because you guys share a cat.
Mike's in the bed.
Yeah, but like, I made the connection because you showed your cat, and I remembered, like, I got one of your cat stickers, and either Mike or Hales told me, that's our singer's cat, and I'm like, cool. Like, wait a minute.
And she's
no, we have two cats.
She's on all the stickers. We love her. But How to Disappear Completely, not the Radiohead album, but the ambient synth album, is, if I just want to sit there and just stare out of a rainy window and generally just kind of like have buzz brain while drinking coffee, that's what I turn to. I love that album. Seraphim is the one that I usually listen to. If you want something that's truly, truly just desolate sounding, great album.
All right, so my pick for saddest non-funeral doom album or artist, I'm gonna go back to the blues guys. There's this one. He's more of like a gospel singer, Washington Phillips. He like made his own sort of like plucking harps. That he's like made his own instruments that have like never been recreated since, and they sound like these like haunted, like music box kind of stuff. And he does this one song, what are they doing in heaven today? And it just fucking breaks me every single time I hear the song. Like, I just like cannot get through the song without just like full sobbing.
I might have to check that out later. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it did not help that I accidentally stumbled onto him the day my dog died. So there's a little bit of some memories attached to that. But like, Jesus Christ, this guy, it's the most hauntingly sad music I have ever heard. And he like writes music about like a conversation between a son and his dying mother and shit like that. It's just absolutely just like pummels you into the dirt emotionally.
That's like such a difficult question for me to answer because I listen to so much sad music. It's kind of my whole thing. So I don't really know how to answer it. I don't really know how to like pick a particular like band or artist. to say that I listen to the most like non-sad metal. I feel like I know that kind of sounds like a cop-out answer, but like, yeah, that's my answer. I love sad music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine. I feel like my tastes have changed nowadays, but
Mm-hmm.
that's why my saddest non-metal music answer is just basic. I love post-rock, love Godspeed You, Black Emperor.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a bad not a bad thing to like them.
It's a great album.
I know.
Yeah.
Or great bands.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm glad they reformed because they've made some bangers.
Yeah, they're sick. Also, I want to add something that I totally forgot. And Mike, this one can help you a little bit too because we blasted this album together, and this destroys both of us. But Jar of Flies by Alice in Chains
Oh yeah.
Oh, I
is
know.
the single most
Great.
devastating album of all time, in my opinion.
Oh,
Also, honorable mention to Creed, all of their music, entire discography.
I do want to
it's
say
sad in another way.
I do want to say
Speaking of sad music, I did get a night of it. I'll briefly touch on Black Pyramid and Circus Trees because I don't have interviews lined up with them right now. But hey, if they're listening, it would certainly be a blast. Patience is a virtue. Black Pyramid played a good set, and I liked the small, rough around the edges setting of deep cuts for them over the dark, expansive main stage of Arts at the Armory. Again, they're pretty classic doom metal. No frills, just a trio of guys from Western Mass cranking out some thick, fuzzy riffs. And to be fair, I wouldn't say they make sad music, at least it's not the first adjective on my list. The Metal Archives does list sorrow as a lyrical theme for them, so welcome on in regardless. Circus Trees could fit into the non-metal sad music category. It's why I think the other three bands will never be famous, it's no fault of their own, but that I'll one day get news about Circus Trees joining as the support on a much bigger band's tour. So far, a band of two young sisters and a drummer, Circus Trees plays a blend of indie, grunge, and emo with some more heavy, riffy moments peppered throughout. Maybe it's music meant for sad teenagers, but there's heart and substance and a little bit of poeticism to it, and an immersive, minimalist lighting setup live that still made me stand in a puddle of my own tears in Topo Chico. The sisters are on very friendly terms with the bands they play with from what I've heard, and yes, they did get a spot at Summer Gloom earlier this year. And Glacier, well, I want more material for when I interview them. Hold your breath, you'll live. But it's crushing instrumental post-metal, lots of weight to it, just really wonderful music. It's rare to meet someone who doesn't like sad music on principle. There are genres that want to claim to be the saddest ever. I did just interview a funeral doom metal band, but Negative Motions breathe life into all corners of music. It's not a special insight to observe that a lot of normal people like darker music. I mean, even if you just wanted to look at 2000s emo, almost every emo kid I knew is married and doing family Halloween costumes with their kids now. But then again, I always lean on jokes that I am messed up enough to seek out music like Tears from a Grieving Heart, or my go-to since high school, the work which transforms God by Blutas Nord. But speaking to a feeling that I think is closer to universal, a curiosity about dark moments that lingers even during our best ones. I don't know what exactly there is to say here. I've had to spend a lot of 2024 explaining a long-standing interest of mine for once, and it's a good thing, because finally my family and friends are a little more curious about it. But some of them still say it's very dark, a bottomless descent into rage or sorrow, and they must wonder how I come out the other side a little better adjusted, all things considered. Maybe now I can ask them about the saddest song they like, the angriest, the evilest? We're addressing the same feelings, just on our own radio frequency. I'm going to be completely real with you. The rest of the material I chose from the interview is us goofing around. It's relevant goofing around. It puts a smile on my face, and I hope it does the same for you. But that's what everyone learns when they get to know a metalhead. We're goofy as fuck. Enjoy.
the reason Ty was like Bloodborne mentioned is Bloodborne's my favorite game of all time.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's true. And I knew that New England inspired Bloodborne because Mike told me that.
There's a lot. That's a joke, but yeah, that's a joke in the FromSoft community, Ty. That people are like, oh, Miyazaki came to this desolate wasteland of New England and was like, oh, fuck Dark Souls 3. I gotta make Dark Souls 2. I gotta make a video game about this horrible place.
I'm about to get canceled by the Dark Souls community.
I am definitely not about to get canceled by the Dark Souls community.
But, yeah, okay, so never mind about the Bloodborne thing. That was a ruse that was meant to blind my eyes. Very sad. But basically, yeah, no, Massachusetts and New England in general, I feel like with the winter months and the Gothic architecture and some of the deep history of Massachusetts, especially if you like to explore some of the abandoned stuff, like on the hiking trails, like I do. There's a lot of like I've noticed that the tourist attractions in Massachusetts are either lobster related or tragedy related, and there's no in between.
No.
And we don't write music about lobsters, but we do write music about tragedies.
Yeah, all the lobster stuff that goes to Ahab.
Yes.
Oh yeah, no, they take the lobster doom approach and they do it very well.
We actually have a list of rankings of doom bands on their was it wetness?
I have a comprehensive list of funeral doom bands in order from wettest to driest sounding.
Which I helped with, and Mandy did too.
That they have pretty wet.
There's over 50 bands on this list. I'm constantly adding to it. Please, I will share it with you if you would like to suggest bands to be added. I will give them a solid listen and decide where they fall in the ranking of wetness.
If I remember,
I never asked you this, Mike. Where do we fall on the
I can pull up the
wetness
list and tell you exactly what number we are on my list of my comprehensive list of
Yeah,
funeral
how wet
bands.
are we?
I'll find it right now. I'll tell you. Give me 2 seconds.
if I'm correct, I think we did put on the wetter side, we definitely put Slow, Oldest Sea. Shape of Despair was getting wetter. On the dry side, we definitely put Thurgathon.
That's a dry band.
They're a dry band.
They're dusty. They're
We're
crusty.
number 14, so we're pretty wet.
Pretty wet. We're kind of sweaty.
Oh, this is a band I haven't listened to in a while, but the band Wormphlegm, I'd say that they're damp, but not wet.
Yeah, they would fall probably more in like the like 28 to 30 range.
Yeah, that's a moist
Real
band
quick,
for sure.
where did you put Esoteric?
Oh.
Because I remember,
Esoteric is very wet. They're number 8.
Yeah, I remember because I said they're wet in a way where you don't really know why they're wet, and you're kind of freaked out that they're wet, but they just seem to be wet for some
why
reason.
is this cat wet?
Poor Theo is like, this is not
it's
what
like
I
they're
was
wet.
expecting.
Why am I wet? This is why I have it as a loose format, so I can have a new ranking list for a filler episode.
I'm happy to share my comprehensive list of funeral doom bands in order from wettest to driest with you. I'm also happy to share with you my categorized list of fake genres of doom metal bands.
Instead of the wet to dry doom metal list, yeah, put in that triangle of like clay, sand, silt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're dry, but are you this dry?
I wonder what the bands that we put on there would think of their ranking.
I'm Oldest Sea liked where I put them, so
I mean, if you name yourself that, you're putting yourself in the path.
Cowardice on that list.
Cowardice is
we
not a
mentioned
funeral
them
doom
earlier.
band.
Okay, that would make sense. So
Cowardice
I was about to
is
say they're
on the
number
ultimate list of doom for beginners, though. Julian
Okay.
he made his own category, and Cowardice is the only band in that category.
Who else is on your doom for beginners list? I think that'd be an interesting.
Are you interested in my ultimate list of doom for beginners?
I am actually. So maybe a bit for myself. Like, I don't think of myself as like really foreign to the genre, but like if I was to tell someone, like someone who's curious.
So I made this list many years ago. I was in a relationship with someone, and I was the first partner he had that was also into metal. He had never had a partner before who was into metal. So when we started talking about metal, he was like, "Oh, you're like an encyclopedia." He's like, I'm into metal, but like you're into metal. And I was like talking about like the different types of doom metal, which he like didn't know that there were different types of it. He just kind of thought it was all like one thing. So I jokingly made this ultimate list of doom for beginners where I created like they're real bands that actually exist, but I created my own subgenres of doom for it. So there's categories like grandfather doom and mustache doom and
No, like I can see where you'd get that.
yeah. There's
I'm
sad
even working
dad
on a
doom.
Grandpa Doom jacket because of this list.
There's unhealthy lifestyle glorification doom.
I love that. I hate that.
Oh, Weed Eater for sure.
Oh, you bet Weed Eater's on that section.
Oh yeah, they're like, pairing cough syrups to fancy cheeses in that band.
There's also a category called Is This Doom?
Is this doom? The science is still out.
Yeah. The bands in the Is This Doom, several question marks, Doom, are Sun,
Okay.
Horus, Earth, Melvins, True Widow, bands like that. Where like they've done doomy things, but is it doom? Like, is drone metal doom? Can drone be doom?
Yeah, in my opinion, I do think drone is doom. But then you have Boris on there, and they're drone like half the time at best.
Yes.
So like, are you doom? Then you have to go back to the question: are you doom?
Yes.
People are moshing to your music. Is it legally allowed to be called doom if you're doing that?
There's motorcycle doom. There's campfire doom.
Really a grunge band.
There's the longest of funeral processions doom. There's library doom. Monastery doom.
Candlemass.
Oh,
Yeah,
Candlemasses and monastery doom. So is Ohm, and so is Trouble.
That's
Makes
fair.
sense.
Well, Ohm's a different kind of monastery if you think about it.
It's true, like that's true monastery doom.
That's like it's either not a Christian monastery or it's that monastery on an island in Greece where only men and male animals are allowed.
Yes. And then as I was referring to, there's a category that I did not create that the guitarist of Cowardice, Julian, created, and it's Doom for the lowest of IQs, and it's just Cowardice. Him and I are very good friends. We've been friends for almost a decade, him and I, and every time I hang out with him, he's like, can I see your ultimate list of Doom for beginners? And I'm like, I just give it to him, and he just adds things in it. And then one day I looked in it, and I was like, oh, there's a new category, and it was just that, Doom for the lowest of IQs, and it's just Cowardice. But then there's also Lawful Good Doom, and that's Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah. Wait, wasn't I involved in that one?
I don't know who put you.
Jimmy Buffett's Florida death metal. I don't agree.
Today in Death Thrash history, we will discuss how Jimmy Buffett wrote the first skank riff.
I'll discuss how Jimmy Buffett's actually pizza thrash.
Yeah.
For boomers.
I would be happy to also share this list with you. It's a fun list. It's just a joke. It's like,
it's a joke, but like I like to promote listening to music outside of your comfort zone, even as I make a podcast that's just me in my comfort zone.
There's some good bands on those. I've looked into a few of them. Because we all put it together, so sometimes there'd be one that I hadn't heard, and I was like, ew, what's this?
That's disgusting, Save.
Yeah. One time, we're just talking about, like, disgusting. One time, a person flirted with me by asking me my thoughts on F sharp, to which I said, disgusting, love it. That was apparently the right answer because I got asked out after that. So. But yeah, the yuckiest of notes. Only yucky notes are allowed. So,
All right.
We need to tune to F sharp now.
Yeah.
F sharp standard.
How do you make harmonica doom metal unless you're Ozzy Osbourne?
I was about to say it, like literally The Wizard by Black.
Yeah, unless you're Ozzy Osbourne, how do you make harmonica doom metal?
You write a song about trains, but you also have down-tuned guitars in it.
Okay, yeah.
It is
Orange
about
Goblin
it's
could
about how
probably do it.
awful it is to be homeless in America.
I feel like Orange Goblin could definitely do it if anyone was going to do it.
There, we have a new category for the beginning Doom playlist. 1930s hobo era Doom.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Train hopper Doom.
There's also Virginia Mountain Doom. We could throw the Carter family into that one.
My face is gonna hurt from all this.
Yeah.
What other questions do you have for us?
I think the other one I had on my screen was it was like any live show stories you wanted to share.
Okay, so there was this person at our show. We had only been playing, like, I think this is like our third or fourth live show ever. And there was a guy that none of us knew. And at this point in time, anybody that was wearing one of our shirts was somebody that we knew, like, you know. So there's this guy, he shows up, he's in our shirt, and me and Mandy are like, yo, who's this guy? And then we show the two of them, and they're like, yo, who is this guy? And he stayed for our set and then left.
He showed up he was at the Bellwitch show.
No,
too,
that's a different guy.
Different guy?
Different guy.
Okay.
But then, okay, wait. So my favorite band is Bellwitch. I've seen Bellwitch every single time they've come to Boston, essentially, at this point. And I took the two of them last year, 2023.
Timing.
I think it was
Yeah,
maybe this
it was
year.
almost a year ago at this
Yeah.
point to see Bellwitch, and I was like, I'm gonna cry. You guys are gonna see me cry. But when we got to Bellwitch, there were like 6 people in Tears from a Grieving Heart shirts at the
That was
Bellwitch
kind
show.
of wild.
And we were like, whoa. And like some of them we didn't know, which was wild too. But yeah, that one show, this guy we did not know. I've never seen him since.
Yeah, no, he came.
That's the realest fan you have.
Yeah,
had
he just
our
walked
shirt,
out halfway through our set, was like, you know what, this band fucking sucks, and never wore our shirt again.
And then he made all those buttons.
Yeah.
To his honor.
Those buttons, we came up with the idea for that when we were drunk at a local Alston favorite bar called The Silhouette.
Oh, I know that. I know that
Tell
one.
you about how you wrote all the riffs.
Yeah, she
I want
writes
to
all of
tell
our riffs.
you about how all the riffs are actually your riffs. And Mandy doesn't know how to write any riffs.
Since this is audio only, there's a small cat
Yeah.
that is on our stickers that writes all of our riffs.
Her
and-
name is Stella Luna.
Yeah.
Oh, like the bat.
Yes, like the bat, you knew. Okay, great. That is exactly, yes, she's a little gray cat, and she kind of looks like a bat, and I named her after the little gray bat. So, well, actually, if you want this story for your podcast, because she is our mascot, I actually wanted to name her Ursula, because I just thought it was a pretty name. And my very Italian father was like, I'm not calling my grandchild that. And I was like, why not? He's like, because it's an ugly name. I was like, I think it's really pretty. He goes, it's ugly. What was the name of that book you love as a kid? And my mom's like, the one about the bat? And my dad is like, yes, the little gray bat and the birds. And my mother is like, Stella Luna. And he was like, that's it. That's her name. Her name is Star Moon. Her name is Stella Luna. So she's Stella Luna.
She is.
And I'm like liking that
He
book.
did
That's
just
like
fight
a
her earlier.
yeah.
It was
But liking
way-
that book, that's just gonna mean you're gonna get into some weird shit as an adult.
Oh, yes.
I have an interesting story. So this is for people who bought the album digitally. And
Like me.
is it on the tape as well? I don't
It's
know.
not on the tape.
It's not on the tape. Okay, so there's a hidden file.
And by digital, you mean Bandcamp. It's Bandcamp
Bandcamp.
only.
Yes, I know how we do things.
Should I explain it? Because
Yeah, probably. I don't.
if if you buy an endless cycle of wrenching pain off of Bandcamp, or get the Bandcamp code and download it, there is an extras folder that you get, and in the extras folder there are 2 things. One is a PDF full of pictures of sad cats.
And there's like hundreds of them.
No, it's more like 50.
Cast before and after you show them
Thousands of
funeral
sad
doom.
cats.
Hundreds of thousands.
No, it's
Endless.
like 50 pics from
Terabytes.
like
sorry.
Twitter of just sad cats. But there's also a secret song And we recorded it. I'm just gonna be honest. We don't remember how to play it. Because we were all absolutely hammered when we wrote it.
I don't even think we remember recording it.
We don't even remember recording it. I just found it in a voice notes on my phone one day. And it is of a little finger puppet book called Spooky Spooky Little Bat, and we wrote a song for it. And it's kind of
wrote is a really loose term.
It kind of sounds like early PJ Harvey. I don't know. So
we were really drunk.
We were really drunk. Yes, that was Sound Museum days. R.I.P. Sound Museum.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. R.I.P. that awful place. We were like lighting firecrackers off in that fucking building.
Oh,
I definitely have
lawless wasteland
from that building for sure. Do you remember
we were doing some stupid shit
there
in
were
there.
Several nightmare bathrooms.
There was some nightmare bathrooms at the Sound Museum, but we
there was that one time that it was like completely covered in pee and graffiti, and it kind of looked like multiple people had like peed in there together.
There was a time that it was out of order, which frankly, the fact that they would even put it as out of order after the things that I've seen when it was supposedly in order makes me, you know what? We're just gonna cut it there. I don't know. I don't want to know. The nightmare bathroom, folks.
Yeah, but now our practice space is like a really awesome, beautiful, well-maintained place.
Yes, it's wonderful.
It's great.
Shout out to the record company.
Shout out to the record company. But yeah, our old practice space was very scary. But we wrote that song in that practice space.
Zoom.
You have one more live.
Okay,
show
we'll do that.
we
We'll
can
do that
tell
too.
you.
Okay, we'll do that too.
Okay.
I'll
Last
tell
year,
because I haven't told it.
yeah.
So this was at O'Brien's a couple years back.
1 year ago, about a year ago.
A year ago. So we're like playing O'Brien's, and this guy just walks by, you know, and he had a really thick Ugandan accent. He was just like, "Oh, what is this?" And I'm like, telling him, "Oh, it's a metal show." He doesn't know what metal is. He's telling me he's like from Uganda and he's like vacationing here. And he was like, "Can I hang out?" And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, pay the cover, hang out." He comes by and he just like, he watches us. Never listened to metal before. And he just watches our performance. And he was just, what did he say? He was like, "Your set has healed me."
No, he said that that my voice cured him of his depression. And that he felt closer to God.
Yeah, I remember that
because of my voice. That I like unleashed something horrible that he was feeling deep inside, and that God spoke to him once more because of my vocals.
So our music is Jesus approved, for anyone who is wondering.
I mean, I will, a lot of Tears for a Grieving Heart, I write the lyrics for Tears for a Grieving Heart. A lot of our lyrics are very heavily drenched in my background in Roman Catholic Catholicism, as well as Dante's Inferno. So
Yeah,
I use God.
So
as
we
a
really like the album
lot.
Heaven and Hell by Black Sabbath.
Yeah. I've tried to convince my mom, like, you know, Black Sabbath is kind of a Christian band when you think about it.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
they
totally.
kind of are. They invented Christian rock.
And I think
actually.
I think this year, like last time I explained it to her, I think she finally got it. Like, 15 years of me being a metalhead later, she gets it.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. She also listens to this podcast, so hi.
Oh, hi.
Oh, what's up?
My
Hey, Mom.
dad listens to us, and he always says, "I don't get it, but I'm proud of you."
I love your dad already. The two stories.
My mom told me that he likes the parts where Mike isn't screaming.
That's what my dad.
Is like none of it.
That's
So
what my dad says when I show him metal. He actually, like, both my parents listen. That's the real surprise here.
My dad really likes the song Borrowed. And his response to hearing Borrowed for the first time with hearing my vocals is he goes, "You sound like Diavolo, like a banshee. And if I heard you in the woods, I would run for my life."
I agree with him there.
Actually, there was one time
like,
where
I saw you on stage, and I'm like, what sound will come out of their mouth? I'm glad. I'm glad the one that does did.
I was actually walking with Mandy through the woods at 1 a.m. as one does. On but we're walking through the woods out in the middle of the Cape, and it was like pitch black outside. Like, it's straight up. If you like found footage movies, it looked like that sort of shit. Spooky branches, all sorts of stuff. And I was like, if I heard Mike doing the vocals that they do in the background, I would simply leave. I would just pack up and just walk out. I would go home. I'd be like, all right, well, I'm not supposed to be here.
I walked into Deep Cuts knowing that Tears from a Grieving Heart would be a blind opener. They were a funeral doom band, and yeah, for me, it's easy to guess the broad strokes of what will be offered on stage. I never expected to laugh with them until my cheeks ached, to wake up with a sore throat and tired voice, and to follow up such dismal music with concentrated human joy. Tears from a Grieving Heart, Mandy, Mike, Hales, and Ty show the beauty, friendship, and energy that can be found in metal, even if you cannot legally mosh to their music. Any parting messages before I sign off?
Parting messages.
All right, cool. Yeah, no, I just wanted to say that I'm really grateful to be able to make this music with these guys. I definitely was in some bands before that were not able to get the work done that we've gotten done, and to anyone who listens to us and gets something from our music, I just want to say I really appreciate it, and I love what I get to do. This is something I look forward to every week, and these folks are some awesome people, and yeah, we may not have high IQ, but we have riffs.
Okay. But yeah, I am just also like super stoked that I get to play really emotionally charged music with my best friends, my found family. We're all dinguses, but I love every moment of it.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I also feel very grateful to be able to make music with 3 people that I love very, very much, and to be able to make the kind of music that we're making and the way that we have all grown and progressed together as musicians is really amazing. And also feeling very grateful that you asked us to be on your podcast and to talk with you today.
Yes,
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. I have like 50 followers. And I would give you all a smooch on the forehead if I could.
Oh,
Yeah.
Aww.